Step up your preparation of GS Mains 2021 with an advanced course. Improve understanding of complex topics, learn to interlink concepts, hone analytical ability, covers following conceptually challenging topics from selected static portion of GS Mains syllabus. Complete analytical coverage of current affairs with Mains 365 classes. Comprehensive study material, soft copy only, sectional mini tests for continual assessment, personal mentoring to address doubts and keep you motivated, live online classes with recorded lectures available on the online personal student account. Duration of program is 12 weeks with 5 to 6 classes in a week. Classes start 19th October 1 p.m. Start now. Cover most crucial topics. Leave no stone unturned. Join the advanced course today.
Hi people, a very good evening to everyone out there. It's quite a pleasant evening also. So my name is Shruti Shah and I welcome you all for this open session on ethics, right? I know it is one of the most awaited session. Everybody wants to know how to prepare about this subject or this section of UPSC mains preparation. Now before we proceed, let me just give you a brief idea that how we intend to go about this analysis session. As in what we have done is, let's just give me a minute. Now what we have decided is, how we are going to proceed with this session is that we have divided the entire ethics paper in 3 parts. One is the theory, second is the application, and third is the case studies. This is how we intend to proceed, right? Now with respect to theory, topics like ethics and human interface, values vis-a-vis socialization, attitude, emotional intelligence, moral thinkers, and aptitude and foundational values in civil services. This is what we intend when we say the theoretical aspect, whereas the application part is nothing but, let us say, ethics in public administration, probity in governance, and rest we all know. The entire section B is nothing but case studies. Why am I giving you this classification is that you should have an idea that what you are going to see in the coming 1.5 hours, what kind of analysis we are going to have. So these are the 4 topics which are the agenda for the day, as in the kind of questions which have been asked in the past, that is previous 3 years, from ethics and human interface or human values or attitude, emotional intelligence. So we are going to analyze ethics paper only from the perspective of these 4 topics. That is the agenda for the class today. Remaining topics would be taken up in the subsequent sessions. Is that very clear? So on this note, we will be starting with today's session. Yeah, there were a lot of students who were asking me about my Telegram channel. So we will be providing you the PPTs, and on this is the link for the Telegram channel, right? Now, I've been saying this time and again in most of my sessions that we really need to be smart workers when it comes down to UPSC. But then there is often a misconception what exactly smart work is. So that is what I wanted to tell everyone out there, that working smart doesn't mean that you have to work less. It's just that you should know that where the efforts have to be made, right? So this is what it matters, that you are working hard on those areas which truly matters. Now, why did I give you the quote in the beginning of the session? Just to make you realize again and again. I think in past 1 week, this is the 3rd time that we are interacting, and this is the 3rd time I'm emphasizing that how important it is to know the nuances of UPSC examination, how important it is to know that what paper you are going to appear for. As in, if you're preparing for GS paper 4, that is ethics, you should have an understanding that what exactly is being asked in ethics paper and how am I supposed to prepare for that, right? And again, one disclaimer, there is no standard book as far as ethics is concerned. So a little bit of mining is required, as in collecting of material from here and there so as to prepare your fodder. So we will get into that detailing in some time, okay? So let's begin. See, first and foremost, I've been saying this, there are 4 pillars to the preparation. And I have told you in the previous sessions also, when I was discussing society, I clearly remember that it is not very specific to preparation of society. It is specific to all those areas where subjectivity is involved. Right? If it is a very technical objective paper, still you can manage, but whenever there is too much of subjectivity involved, it is very important that you understand your syllabus well, and not only you understand the syllabus, you also deconstruct the syllabus well. For example, I'll give you an example. There is a topic in your syllabus, if you've seen, right? There is a topic called attitude. Within attitude, there are two topics, social influence and persuasion, but nothing beyond that has been given. Now, in what capacity will you be preparing social influence, or in what capacity you should prepare persuasion? Now that becomes a challenge, not like challenge, but at least you need to work on it, right? So this is what I mean when I say deconstruction. So first and foremost, you should know your syllabus well, that what exactly you are supposed to study and in what capacity you are supposed to study. The second and most important thing when it comes down to ethics paper is knowing the key terms and concepts, right? And when I say key terms and concepts, I just do not mean the definition. See, definition is one component of it, but just by knowing the definition would not serve the purpose, because we will see the kind of questions UPSC has been asking. So what I mean when I say prepare your key terms and concepts is, let us say you have a concept. There are key terms and concepts, right? So whatever the term is there, first you should know the definition of the term. That goes without saying. Then if there are some respective characteristic features of the term, you should know that. Then you should be prepared with respect to the examples. And what I mean by examples is, the example can be your own personal example from your socio-cultural life. It can be an example from some theoretical perspective. It can be an example with respect to, let us say, administration or the leadership. It can be an example from your mythology. It can be, in general, I've already said that also, but it can be the example from various charismatic personalities. You have to prepare in this capacity, because we will just see in few minutes that what kind of questions UPSC has been asking, and the challenge is not actually the nature of the paper. The challenge is we are not preparing according to the nature of the paper or the nature of the questions which have been asked by UPSC. That is the only challenge. If you look at the content is not challenge. Do you really think what are values? It's a challenge to remember. Or what is the difference between values and ethics? Right? Are you getting the point? Or the significance of ethics in ensuring social and human well-being? Do you really think answering these questions is a challenge? No. But exactly preparing according to the demand of the paper, that has become a task, because we are not focusing in that direction. Is that clear? Okay? Is this very clear? And finally, whatever that concept is, how to develop, depending upon the concept. Let us say you have topic like value. Okay? So what is the definition of value? What are the characteristic features of values? What are different manifestation of values? How to inculcate those values? Can you prepare the examples, either your personal example where you have explicitly shown the value of integrity? Let us say the question is integrity, right? The value of integrity. So what do you mean by the value of integrity? What are the manifestations of a person who upholds the value of integrity? Can you give some example from your personal life where you have exhibited this value of integrity? Can you give some example from political leadership, administrative leadership or mythology where they have exhibited this value of integrity? Now you know that being a person or a man or woman of integrity is one of the most important core virtues of the society. Then how one should develop that value of integrity? Did you get the point what exactly I am trying to say here? Okay. This is what I am saying, that even if you are preparing a single value, let us say it is integrity. I'll just show that how the notes have to be prepared. We will discuss in the end of the lecture. So even if it is a small topic like integrity, it is a very core value or one of the core virtues of the social existence. So everyone should possess. Ideal situation is one should possess this value. Now you should prepare in these dimensions, because you never know what kind of question can be asked. Is this making sense for everyone? Okay? This is what we mean when we say that one needs to be aware about the key concepts, right? The third thing is previous year questions. That is what the analysis was all about. Now previous year questions, again, I've been saying this also in previous sessions, that it gives you an idea that in what capacity you should prepare the topic. At least it has given me the idea that if I have to teach students in the class with respect to ethics, then how am I supposed to go about it? Right? It also gives us the clear framework or direction in which we have to channelize our classes. So in the same manner, it is going to be helpful for you also. Is that very clear? So previous year questions should be the benchmark or the standard which will be defining the nuances of your preparation. Is that clear? But ultimately, okay, since I deal with those areas where answer writing becomes like indispensable. For example, you have society, essay, ethics. No matter how much you study, if you do not practice answer writing, completing the paper becomes the task. And not only completing the paper, many a times you think that you know, right? And you think that you actually can write the answer to the question. Question देखा, अरे इसमें तो ये कर देंगे, ये लिखना है, ऐसे करना है और हो जाएगा. But when you actually get down to write the answer, you realize that 1.5 side is over and you've not written anything concrete. Right? So it is not there to scare you or to generate fear. Nahin yaar, that's not the intention. It is there basically, why am I saying all of this, is to give you the reality check, because it has happened with us. That many a times we believe कि ये तो हमें आता है, we know this, we know how to answer this question. अरे we know this quotation can be written here, this perspective can be written here, oh I have read somewhere, you know, and this I will add and the answer is over. That kind of preparation should come later. This framework kind of preparation should come when you have already practiced your answer writing enough number of times. Then you can, you know, just put like this and prepare the, you know, virtual framework ki aisa kar lenge, waisa kar lenge. But when you have not practiced enough, then this kind of preparation can be a challenge, right? So it is always advisable that whenever you are preparing a topic, pick up questions from previous year, just note it down and practice answer writing. Then you will know that what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, where are you lacking, what needs to be worked upon. Is it your handwriting? Is it your speed? Is it your formation of the structuring of the answer? Or is it you are taking too much time to begin the answer? Kabhi there is initial inertia when you are writing the answer. So are you facing problem in introduction of your answer, or you are facing problem while concluding your answers? So where is the main reason? What is the problem behind your preparation? Or maybe that we don't have a content with respect to certain topics, or maybe that we are not able to understand the demand of the question. Many a times it happens, right? So to know that what exactly is your level of preparation, where you stand, you need to practice answer writing. And for which, if you can join test series good enough, even if you cannot join any coaching institute's test series, just pick up random papers from the market and solve them. The more you practice, the more you will start getting hang of it. Is this very clear for everyone? ठीक है? These are the 4 topics which I am going to deal with. So ethics and human interface, it appears that it is already deconstructed. Yes, to certain extent they have deconstructed it, but anyway, when I am taking up respective topics, I will give you further deconstruction, that in case you are preparing on your own, then on what parameters you can prepare the topic. Okay? So these are the 4 topics: ethics and human interface, human values, attitude, emotional intelligence. The first topic that we are going to take up is emotional intelligence. Now what they have given in your syllabus is concept of emotional intelligence, utility and application in administration and governance. This is what they have given. Now just based on the kind of questions which have been asked in the past and how one should prepare in a very comprehensive manner, I have prepared this flow chart, that this is how you can prepare this topic. So the first topic that we are taking up is emotional intelligence. Okay, just before that, this is just for the understanding that you know how many questions have been asked from these sections. Actually अगर पूरा कोई section होता ना तो इस weightage का point होता, but since we have divided the session, so I am obligated to tell you how it works. See, कोई hard and fast rule नहीं है. From these 4 topics in 2018 there was 1 question. In 2019 there were 3 questions. ठीक है. However, in 2020 there were 6 questions. Right, but कोई hard and fast rule नहीं है. They can ask any number of questions from any section at any given point of time. So you have to prepare all the sections. Nothing can be left. So basically this is the bottom line, that none of the topic in your syllabus can be left, because UPSC, it jumbles up. For example, in 2016 there were 5 questions which were asked from these 4 topics. Right, in 2017 also there were 5 questions which were asked. However, in 2018 there was a significant reduction, only 1 question was asked. Then again in 2019 there were 3 questions, and 2020 6 questions were asked. Right, so कोई मतलब एक set pattern नहीं है. So every time these 4 topics becomes equally important and you have to prepare these topics, right? Now, the first topic that we are going to discuss is emotional intelligence. Now, if you have gone through, I am just not restricting the analysis to previous 3 years. Overall, if you analyze, you will realize that from emotional intelligence, there are 2 kind of questions which have been asked in past. Right? One, the set of questions are being asked with respect to emotions. For example, there was a question that every human being aspire for happiness. Do you agree with the statement? What according to you is happiness? Give examples. UPSC का question है, right? Happiness is an emotion, right? So this was the question which UPSC asked. Then next year the question asked was that anger is a negative emotion. It negatively impacts your personal life as well as your work life. ठीक है, and then the question was asked on anger, how it can be managed, controlled, all of that. ठीक है. Now last year the question asked was on hatred. So they have been asking questions with respect to emotion, whether it is anger, whether it is happiness, whether it is hatred. These are the emotions, right? Do you understand what do we mean by emotions? ठीक है ना? So and every individual is capable of experiencing emotions. So emotions are nothing but the personal experiences which results due to complex interplay between your situational, physiological or cognitive variables. Why did I mention this? Was not basically to tell you, just to tell you that अगर emotions है आपका topic तो आपको definition पता होनी चाहिए. कोई सी भी definition आप तैयार कर सकते हो, whichever you are comfortable with. Is that clear? Is it making sense for everyone? ठीक है ना? So with respect to emotional intelligence, 2 set of questions are asked. One is directly with respect to what kind of emotions, and within emotions also they are asking you what is the meaning of that emotion. ठीक है? Then what are the manifestations? What are the examples? And in case it is a positive emotion, then how to develop that? And if it is a negative emotion, then how to control or regulate that? Is this very clear? Is it making sense? On the other hand, they are asking you questions from emotional intelligence as a concept. What is emotional intelligence? What are the components or building blocks of emotional intelligence, right? What is the role of emotional intelligence in administration? Can you learn emotional intelligence, right? So they have been asking these questions, and these are very direct questions they have been asking. ठीक है, तो emotional intelligence जब आप topic तैयार करो, keep in your subconscious mind that these are the two set of questions. At least अभी तक तो यही कर रहे हैं, अब आगे कुछ नया करेंगे तो कह नहीं सकते, but अभी तक over the past years this has been the trend that there are two set of questions which are asked. One is with respect to the emotion and other is with respect to emotional intelligence. Is this very clear for everyone? And within emotions also, the meaning of emotion, manifestation, examples, and the ways to regulate or develop it. And on the contrary, with respect to emotional intelligence, the concept, building blocks, components, you know, and role in administration, governance, or emotional intelligence in Indian context also comes very handy, right? Now, these are the questions in past 3 years. We can do away with the first question since we are restricting ourselves to the previous 3 years. So anyway, these are the questions which have been asked. How will you apply emotional intelligence in administrative practices? Second, emotional intelligence is the ability to make your emotions work for you instead of against you. Do you agree with this view? Discuss. We'll discuss all these questions. Then, what are the main components of emotional intelligence? Can they be learned? Discuss. Did you notice what kind of questions have been asked in past as far as emotional intelligence is concerned? Right? So emotional intelligence is the ability to make your emotions work in your favor rather than against you. Do you agree with this view? If you agree or disagree, whatsoever it is, you need to discuss that. Then what are the main components and how will you apply emotional intelligence in administrative practices? Then as far as emotions is concerned, I've already told you this is how the question has been asked. In 2020, the question was, hatred is destructive of person's wisdom and conscience that can poison a nation's spirit. Do you agree with this view? Justify your answer. So you have to be prepared with examples. That's for sure. And in just some time, we will see how the notes can be prepared. Is this very clear? Is it making sense? Okay, we'll take these questions. I hope this is visible for everyone. I think I've added too many components on one slide, but this is how I believe that emotional intelligence as a complete topic can be prepared. Okay. So, emotional intelligence mein first and foremost, you should know what are emotions. You should be able to address the myth which is existing with respect to emotions, because many a time there is a perception that if you use your emotions, then there would not be rationality in your decision making, there would not be critical thinking, there would not be objectivity, sound judgments would not be made, there would be incidences of arbitrary behavior. So there is a myth which is existing with respect to emotions, and on the contrary, there have been various researches which has time and again proved that these emotions, if you use constructively, adequately, in an intelligent manner, then it can help in improving the organizational efficiency. It can help in creating good, peaceful environment, the work environment. At the same time, it can motivate us, right? It can add some ethical values in our conduct. So basically what we are, it helps you to adapt. Emotions helps in adaptation. So with respect to adaptability, with respect to quick learning, emotions can be very helpful, right? So what I'm trying to say is that you can prepare, what do you understand by emotions? What are the myths which are existing with respect to emotions? You never know what kind of question UPSC can ask. Then what are the different types of emotions? You have primary emotion, secondary emotion, positive emotion, negative emotion, right? And within that positive and negative emotion, you can prepare certain list of emotions. Right? I'm not asking you, see, there is no end to it. So definitely I will not be very, unrealistic that you will prepare all set of emotions. Nahin, aisa nahi ho sakta. But yes, there are some handful of emotions, 7-8 emotions, which one can prepare. Right? So for example, joy ho gaya, happiness ho gaya, anger ho gaya, jealousy ho gaya, hatred ho gaya. ठीक है ना, ग्रैटिट्यूड हो गया, सो देर आर सर्टन इमोशंस, होप हो गया, सो यू कैन प्रिपेयर सर्टन इमोशंस एज फार एज एग्जामिनेशन पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू इज कंसर्न, बोथ इन द कैपेसिटी ऑफ पॉजिटिव एज वेल एज नेगेटिव इमोशंस. Then you should understand what is the concept of emotional intelligence, what are the building blocks of emotional intelligence. You can study Daniel Goleman's perspective and Mayer and Salovey's perspective. See, this is not a classroom program, so I'm not getting further into detailing, but I am assuming that if you have prepared ethics, and even if you have not prepared, तो इतना idea ले लो कि this is how you need to prepare. Then what is the role of emotional intelligence in administration? How emotional intelligence can be learned, and finally emotional intelligence in Indian context. In simple words, Bhagavad Gita. Okay, so you should have some understanding or knowledge about Bhagavad Gita. That can come very handy, right? Because whenever we talk about emotional intelligence, we think it's Daniel Goleman's perspective. Lord Krishna ages before has talked about the concept of emotional intelligence when he talked about sthit pragna. ठीक है, if you know your Bhagavad Gita, you would be understanding what I'm trying to say. So this is how you can prepare emotional intelligence. Now, this is the first question that we are taking up, and that is, what are the main components of emotional intelligence? Can they be learned? And you need to discuss. See, simple. It has two parts to it. So what are the main components of EI? So any question that you are starting, it is always an advice, please remember the definitions. It comes very handy in writing the introduction. So if you look at the answer, I have given two definitions, you can choose any one. Okay? So what is the definition of emotional intelligence? It is the ability of an individual to reason with emotions and to use emotions in reasoning. Right? So you can write down this definition. It saves some time and space also. Then what are the main components of emotional intelligence? So if you have read Daniel Goleman's perspective, you know that it is self-awareness, it is self-motivation, it is self-regulation, it is empathy, it is social skills. So these are nothing but the components of emotional intelligence, right? हम डायरेक्टली क्वेश्चन पे, मेन स्ट्रक्चर पे आ जाएंगे. या 10 मार्कर है, यू डोंट हैव इनफ स्पेस एंड टाइम्स. ठीक है, व्हाट आई हैव डन इज दैट in case you're writing, you can also present it. What are the main components? तो आप चाहो ये छोड़ भी सकते हो. This is only for your understanding. ऐसा नहीं है कि exactly यही आंसर replicate करना है. जब हम main components की बात करते हैं तो you cannot leave the answer just by making that diagram. At least एक एक लाइन में बताना भी तो पड़ेगा ना component से मतलब क्या है, what exactly self awareness stands for, what exactly self regulation. So you know, having understanding about your own emotions. ठीक है, what are the drivers of your emotions, how it is going to affect others. This is nothing but self awareness, right? Then when we talk about self regulation, that is your ability to control your impulses, your ability to think before acting. This is nothing but self regulation. Then self motivation is a persistent effort in order to pursue your goals. That is nothing but motivation. Then empathy, we all know, you know, placing yourself imaginatively in the place of others and trying to understand their situation. Then social skills, relationship management, network building, that is nothing but social skills. So one line mein you should have a brief understanding that what exactly these components of emotional intelligence stand for. ठीक है, then question arises that whether they can be learned or not. एक perspective कहता है that it is genetical, right? Or in a very early stage, at the early stages of socialization, these emotional intelligence has been built. However, another school of thought says ऐसा कुछ नहीं है, emotional intelligence can also be learned. So then how it can be learned? So obviously first an individual who wants to learn emotional intelligence should have the motivation to learn. ठीक है, I should have that zeal that, you know, where I'm ready to put in the effort to evaluate my emotions, to identify what are the causal factors behind my emotions and whether I'm ready to, you know, change that aspect or not. So I should have that motivation, and not only the motivation is required, the other important factor is there has to be a planned intervention where a third person is providing you a proper feedback that this is how the society perceives you, this is how you are behaving, these are the problems in your behavior and this is how it needs to be changed. So there has to be a proper planned intervention. Most importantly, one needs to have a flexible attitude. flexibility in their approach. ठीक है, see we all know that we are very sensitive to criticism, most of us, right? Who likes to be criticized ना? अब तो बड़ा बहुत वैसे बोल दे नहीं नहीं, I am very open to criticism, बुरा तो लगता है ना यार. So the point here is not everyone is open to criticism, we all are sensitive, but then we should have that flexible approach that even if we are being sensitive to criticism, we are ready to change ourselves according to the feedback which is being provided to us. Is that clear? Just have a look. ठीक है, and ultimately the point which I've been saying like everyone, ठीक है, it's all about talks when you don't apply it. I have told you, okay, listen, emotional intelligence means you should know about your strengths and weaknesses, self-awareness. Emotional intelligence means that you are able to regulate your behavior. For example, if you're not studying, if you are, you know, lured or tempted by, you know, whatever, your friends are partying, your relatives are, you know, celebrating festivals, and that temptation is there to go on social media and everything, but no, you have to control your emotions, you have to regulate your behavior, and constantly you have to keep motivating yourself, right? I am telling you all that, these are the building blocks of emotional intelligence and you have to do it like this, but then you are not practicing, you are not applying what is being told to you. So in your everyday life, you have to apply what is being told to you, right? So it is the application part which is important. Is that very clear? Okay. So again, it's not a hard and fast rule that this is how the answer has to be written. There can be different ways in which the answer can be written. All I'm trying to say is that if you have prepared the topic in a holistic manner, ठीक है, क्योंकि कहीं पे भी सिलेबस में नहीं दे रखा था ये चीज, तो आपको डीकंस्ट्रक्ट करनी थी. वंस यू हैव डीकंस्ट्रक्टेड द सिलेबस, यू विल एग्जैक्टली नो इन व्हाट कैपेसिटी इट हैज टू बी प्रिपेयर्ड, एंड इफ यू हैव प्रिपेयर्ड इट, then you will be able to write the answer. ठीक है, and then concluding remark में you can establish how important it is to develop emotional intelligence, especially in the current context where social interaction has significantly increased. In the world of social media, you know, virtual interaction, being emotionally intelligent is the need of the hour, and this emotional intelligence should be developed at an early stage, and it can be made an integral component of your school curriculum, and then you can conclude. Is that clear? Rule your feelings lest your feelings will rule you. One should not be the prisoner of their own emotions. Anyway, so you just need to tell me, was the question difficult? I don't think, really, I don't think the question was at all difficult. It's again, it's very subjective. If you know the answer, it is an easy question. If you don't know the answer, it might be difficult. Presentation part में भी कोई बहुत rocket science नहीं है. आप simple तरीके से you can write the answer. ठीक है? Next question. The question is, emotional intelligence is the ability to make your emotions work in your favor instead of going against you. Right? Do you agree with this view? And you have to discuss. Again, what do you mean by emotional intelligence? So last time I asked you to use a simple definition that it's an ability of an individual, है ना, to reason with their emotions and to use emotions in their reasoning. This time we can use the second definition, that is, emotional intelligence is the ability of an individual to understand, to use, to manage your own emotions as well as the emotions of others in a positive way, right? And why? So in a positive way, basically to communicate effectively, to relieve your stress, to diffuse any conflict, to decrease antisocial behavior, to empathize with others. You can add more points to it. This is totally your understanding that if emotional intelligence happen, basically it enables you to effectively communicate, to relieve your stress, to diffuse the conflicts, to decrease the antisocial behavior, to empathize, and you know, all of that. Is that to overcome challenges, right? Basically, emotional intelligence deals with both inter as well as intrapersonal intelligence, because you are managing not only your emotions but also the emotions of others, right? Now, again, we have discussed this before also, that linking statements can also come very handy in order to connect your introduction with the demand of the topic, as in the demand of the question. So here you can add that how emotional intelligence helps us in channelizing our emotions for the constructive purpose. So it basically enables the emotions work for our benefit rather than against us. ठीक है, and how it happens. See, if you are an emotionally intelligent person, that means you are self-aware, that means you are motivated, that means you have social skills, you have leadership skills, you will be efficient at the workplace. So how being emotionally intelligent going to work in your favor? Right, so we have basically added to this. Now, do you realize that the content was similar, only depending upon the nature of the question, the presentation has underwent a change. हम यही बात कर रहे थे components of emotional intelligence की, आपने बता दिया what are components. Now the question is saying that how emotional intelligence helps you. So it helps us making us self-aware, you know, regulating our impulses or disruptive behavior, motivating ourselves, character building, you know, leadership skills, social skills, efficiency at workplace, because Daniel Goleman says that 80% of the adult success depends upon any one of us who's working, our success depends upon the emotional quotient rather than the intelligent quotient. So it's all about EQ, not IQ, right? So again, self-awareness. If you are a self-aware person, you are able to identify your emotions, you are able to develop the ability to monitor your emotions, there would be a peace of mind, there would be certain amount of satisfaction. Similarly, if you are able to regulate your behavior, you would no longer be prisoner of your own emotions, right? You would be able to think before acting. Not only that, we have already talked about that you will be keep motivating yourself. If you are an emotionally intelligent person, it might be that you have come across certain situations of adversity. You would not feel discouraged. You will be motivating yourself to show endurance in the face of adversity. You will be able to endure all the crises that you have faced. Then character building. Obviously, if you are an emotionally intelligent person, you will have that competitive spirit. You will have that risk-taking abilities. So in a way, it shapes your character. It builds your character. Then obviously, the social skills, leadership skills, and the efficiency at the workplace. Social skills matlab networking banana, relationship management, balance between professional and personal relationship. Then leadership skills. One needs to be grounded, one needs to be balanced, one needs to have good communication skills, good at conflict resolution. Is that very clear? You can add examples to it also, that how emotional intelligence helps you. For example, I've given two set of examples here, that let us say you are working in defense forces, right? Now, if you are working in defense forces, one thing is quite obvious, that thode to challenges hain. Obviously, you've been isolated from your families, your friends, your kin, right? Then there is too much strict adherence to the rules. There is a constant threat to your life. Okay, many a times the environmental adversities, the circumstantial adversities are also existing. Despite that, if you are an emotionally intelligent person, you will be able to ensure a stable mental state. You will be able to use your social skills to, you know, bond with your colleagues with whom you are working. You will be able to overcome that problem of loneliness, isolation. So emotionally intelligent person will able to endure the situations of adversity, will be able to use their social skills to create a better place to live in, to ensure peace, harmony, cooperation in the society, right? So defense forces may, despite those challenges, you will be able, because you are aware. You are aware about the mental difficulties or the social or the environmental or the physical taxing nature of the job in defense forces. So you will be able to shape your mental state accordingly. Is that very clear? Similarly, in the current scenario, when there is too much of competition in the market, everybody is striving for a promotion, everybody is striving for a better standard of living, everyone is striving for higher salary. So in that situation, there has been a significant negative impact on the mental health, anxiety, stress, depression, right? Personal relations are taking a toll. So in this situation, being emotionally intelligent will ensure you that you will be able to manage your personal professional life, you will be able to take rational decisions, you will be able to overcome challenges or the pressure or the stress which has been created or which comes with the nature of the job. So you can make use of these examples. Again, let me put a disclaimer. I have not given you 150 words ka answer. That was not the intention, right? I am giving you the fodder. And then from here, because obviously no matter how much fodder we provide, ऐसा तो है नहीं कि everything you will remember, ठीक है. So what I'm trying to say here is that you can make use of examples also to convey how emotional intelligence can help you use your emotions in your favor rather than against you. Is this clear? ठीक है. Can we take the next question which was asked last year? That is with respect to emotion. So the question asked was hatred, right? Just look at the question. Hatred is destructive of person's wisdom and conscience that can poison a nation's spirit. Do you agree with this view? Yeah, more or less we agree with this view. So we just need to justify our answer. You can start with what do you understand by hatred. तभी मैंने कहा ये पहले से तैयार करना है, right? That hatred is an irrational negative emotion. How hatred is often associated with feeling of anger, intolerance or disposition towards hostility. Mahatma Gandhi also says that anger and intolerance are the biggest enemies of correct understanding, right? So in that capacity also you can address the question that how hatred often is associated with the feeling of anger and hostility or intolerance. ठीक है. Ideally hatred is basically an emotional extreme dislike, and the hatred can be directed either towards an object or a person or an idea or an entity, whichever way you can define. All I'm trying to say is अगर आपको सच में लगता है कि आपको एग्जाम में याद आ जाएगा तो ऐसा नहीं होता है, ठीक है. सेकेंड चीज, there are few people who are very good with words. Everyone know what is hatred, extreme dislike for something, right? So we know that, but many a times what happens, it is a psychological aspect that if you have not prepared something beforehand, so you are just puzzled the moment you see the question. But if you have prepared yourself mentally कि देखो यार इमोशन पे क्वेश्चन बन सकता है, दो चार इमोशंस आपने तैयार कर लिए, अगर आपने जो क्वेश्चन पूछा है मे बी यू हैव नॉट प्रिपेयर्ड इट एग्जैक्टली बट एटलीस्ट यू वर expecting that on this line the question could have been asked, so it would not be a surprise thing for you, and accordingly you will prepare your mind to write the answer. Is this very clear? ठीक है. Then you can talk about the linking statement which clearly says that a common set of values, the moral values, often consider that hatred is the enemy of the correct judgment, right, or the correct understanding. So hatred basically overshadows your judgment and belief, so it needs to be opposed. Then basically you have to give the examples. So obviously you know the examples, you can take your examples from the current context, let us say cyberbullying or mob lynching, ठीक है, or the exodus which is happening, right? So all of that can be added here, or you can take examples from your history, that is world history, let us say. So you have picked up the example of Hitler, that how, and then you can explain that how he had the hatred towards a certain community and which was responsible for their downfall. So it is said that it was started with a feeling of hatred of an individual towards a community, and then how this feeling became all pervasive and it destroyed the nation's spirit. It posed a challenge or a threat to the harmony, the social capital in the society. And then you can talk about the example of Nazi Germany, how it started with the leader and how it trickled down. First the Jews were blamed for the defeat in the First World War, and then it were the pogroms which started, which further culminated into a Holocaust. Then in Indian context also you can give the examples. I've already told you, hate speeches हो गया, communal riots हो गए, mob lynching हो गई, cyberbullying हो गई. You need to understand, although you might think that this emotion of hatred is your own individual emotion, but we don't realize it has a larger ramification in the society. And specifically in case you are an administrative official where there is a wide range of interaction that you are having with the public, okay, in that situation having this negative emotion of hatred can have wider negative ramification. So one has to be conscious, right? One should not develop this negative emotion or should try to regulate this negative emotion. For example, inculcating right kind of values right from the childhood: compassion, forgiveness, magnanimity. You need to develop these values in the children so that they don't become the prisoner of these emotions such as hatred, jealousy, anger, etc. Is this very clear for everyone? you can conclude on this remark. So all the questions which we discussed as far as emotional intelligence was concerned, did you get an idea that what kind of questions UPSC can ask in two capacity, how you have to prepare emotional intelligence as a topic, and finally in previous 3 years, that is 18, 19 and 20, what kind of questions have been asked. 3 questions were there in 3 past years and I have discussed all the 3 questions here. Is that clear? ठीक है? The next thing that we are taking up is, that was just the counter view. ठीक है? Now, just look at this. This is the next topic that we have taken, and what I have done is I have combined here 2 things. One is ethics and human interface, and second is human values. I have combined both the topics here. ठीक है? So just have a look. With respect to ethics and human interface, the kind of questions they have been asking is concept. For example, I'll tell you, बहुत direct. What is the difference between law and ethics? What is the difference between values and ethics? How ethics contributes to individual and social well-being? Are you getting the point? Are you getting what kind of questions they've been asking? ठीक है ना? So this is how the questions have been asked, right? Applied ethics. For example, what do you understand by environmental ethics, right? So there are questions which are directly asked from this paper, from this section, that is the concept, the significance and the applied part, which we will see in some time what kind of question they have been asking. The second is the human values. If you've seen your syllabus, there is human values and वहाँ पे role of socialization वगैरह दे रखा है. So either they are asking you question with respect to the values, the specific values, right? For example, wisdom हो गया, integrity हो गया. So they are asking questions with respect to the specific values, or they are asking you questions with respect to agencies of socialization. For example, role of internet. For example, role of education. Are you getting the point? Or family, right? So basically they are asking questions, or the teachings of Buddha, Lord Gautam Buddha. So they've been asking you role of different agencies in shaping those values. So directly these are the areas from where the questions have been asked as far as these 2 topics are concerned. Is this very clear? Just have a quick look at the kind of questions which have been asked. For example, in looking for people to hire, you look for 3 qualities: integrity, intelligence and energy. And if they do not have the first, the other 2 will kill you. Warren Buffett. The question has been asked on integrity. I told you, no, they might ask you the question on specific value, right? The second question, what is meant by crisis of conscience? How does it manifest itself in public domain? We'll discuss what do you mean by conscience and where do you have to discuss this, right? Then what is meant by the term constitutional morality? How does one uphold constitutional morality? I'll discuss how these questions have to be prepared. Then what teachings of Buddha are most relevant today and why? Then education is not an injunction, it's an effective and pervasive tool for overall development of the individual and social transformation. ठीक है? Examine the new education policy in the light of the above statement. Again, see, I am not going into the tail words, reason being that every faculty in every subsequent sessions have been talking about that. But and I have also discussed where I have told you that suppose करो इसी question को लो, तो इसमें लिखा है ना कि you have to examine the new education policy in the light of the above statement. That means in the introduction you have to define or discuss what exactly the statement stands for, what exactly is the intent which the statement is trying to convey, right? So you will start the introduction with the discussion, brief discussion, 1 paragraph discussion on the statement, and then you will relate how new education policy is not an injunction but it tries for holistic development of the individual and social transformation. Then next, the current internet expansion has instilled a different set of cultural values which are often in conflict with the traditional values, and you need to discuss. Again, internet is one of the means by which A significant change has been brought about in different agencies of socialization, because of which the kind of values which have been provided to us has underwent a change. So the question has asked to what extent these contemporary values are in conflict with the traditional values. Is this very clear? देखा जाए तो questions अपने आप में difficult नहीं है, ठीक है ना? Clear हो रहा है? ठीक? तो फिर हमने ये सोचा कि हम कैसे पढ़ाई करें ये सारी चीजों की. दिस इज हाउ व्हाट वी कैन डू. ठीक है, एक तरीका बता रही हूं. सपोज करो वैल्यू, VAME जो लिखा है, वैल्यू, एटीट्यूड, मॉरल, एथिक्स. You understand, first of all you have to understand what these four concepts are. What are they made up of? ठीक है, you should have the understanding that what do you mean by values, right? They are the guiding principles, right? They are the general determinant of behavior. Value basically means long lasting beliefs based on desirability and undesirability, or you can say values is the worth that you allocate to something, right? It's a general determinant of behavior. The moment you tie your value to an object, event, person, whatsoever it is, it becomes the attitude. मैं पढ़ा नहीं रही हूँ, मैं सिर्फ एक आइडिया दे रही हूँ, ठीक है. Now, values are in general based on the understanding of desirability and undesirability. But when you look at the values from the prism of right and wrong, then at individual level it is known as morals, and at societal level it is known as ethics. ठीक है ना? तो पता होना चाहिए what do you mean by values, what do you mean by attitude, what are morals, what are ethics. ठीक है? Then you should also know the characteristic features. Then you should also know the interrelationship between the two. What is the relationship between belief and value? पता होना चाहिए. What is the relationship between value and attitude? You should know. You should know that how values, when seen from the lens or the prism of right and wrong. So at individual level it is morals, and at the collective level it is ethics. ठीक है? तो ये सारे interlinkages पता होने चाहिए. The work becomes easy. Then you should know that how these values, attitude, moral, ethics, they are developed in an individual. This is nothing but socialization. So how do you develop value, attitude, moral, ethics? कैसे किसी के अंदर आते हैं? It is by means of socialization. So you should know what is the concept of socialization. You should know what are the techniques for socialization. You should know what are the different agencies of socialization. For example, family, education system, religion, right? Then your media, peer group, workplace. These are nothing but agencies of socialization, and you have to prepare these agencies of socialization. ठीक है? Then this is the topic, ethics and human interface. You have studied what is ethics. You have studied the characteristic features of ethics, right? You have also studied how ethics is different from morals. What is the relationship between law and ethics? How one of the source of ethics is norms, right? You have discussed all of that. अभी हमने पहले diagram में बताया. अब the specific topic has to be taken up. For example, what is the essence of ethics? What are the consequences of ethics? ये आपके syllabus में है. What are the determinants of ethics? What are the dimensions of ethics? Right? And when you are discussing the dimensions, I know those who have studied ethics, they will understand what I'm trying to say. And when you are studying the dimensions of ethics, then you will be talking about what are meta ethics, normative ethics, applied ethics, descriptive ethics, right? और applied ethics में आप पढ़ते हो environmental ethics, machine ethics, bioethics, right? All of that is added there. Is this making sense for everyone? ठीक है? तो इस तरह से एक holistic coverage is the need of the hour. Can we proceed? Now, you must be wondering कि यार ये सब कैसे वैसे. कुछ टेंशन की ज़रूरत ही नहीं है. एथिक्स की प्रेपरेशन एक्चुअली इज़ नॉट डिफिकल्ट एट ऑल. व्हाट यू नीड टू डू आर जस्ट टू थिंग्स. एक, फ्रॉम द मार्केट पिक अप एनी स्टैंडर्ड बुक. स्टैंडर्ड बुक एज इन जो स्टूडेंट्स आर रेफरिंग टू. सी, आई गिव यू एन आइडिया. इफ यू कैन गेट होल्ड ऑफ विजन IAS क्लासरूम नोट्स, decent enough. If you can get hold of the printed material, good enough. If you can get hold of any book in the market which largely the students are reading, go to any photocopy shop वाला भैया and ask कि आजकल बच्चे क्या पढ़ रहे हैं. ठीक है, तो वही आपकी हेल्प कर देंगे इन अ वेरी जेन्युइन मैनर. दे आर वेरी हेल्पफुल पीपल. जस्ट गो आस्क कि विच बुक शुड आई रीड फॉर एथिक्स एंड दे विल जेन्युइनली सजेस्ट यू द बुक विच कैन बी रेफर्ड टू. बिकॉज मोर और लेस, या देखो एथिक्स की डेफिनेशन हो सकता है आपकी एक बुक में कुछ लिखी हो, दूसरे में कुछ लिखी हो, लेकिन गलत नहीं लिखी हुई होगी. इतना तो मैं मान के चलती हूं कि इतना तो है इंटीग्रिटी कि गलत डेफिनेशन तो कोई नहीं लिख के देगा आपको, राइट. सो इतना है कि जो बेसिक कॉन्सेप्चुअल अंडरस्टैंडिंग है दैट यू विल गेट एक्सेस टू फ्रॉम एनी मटेरियल इन द मार्केट, बट दैट इज बेसिक. बेस आपने तैयार कर लिया, ठीक है, और इसको समझना बिल्कुल भी मुश्किल नहीं है. वंस यू रीड व्हाट इज वैल्यूज, व्हाट आर डिफरेंट टाइप्स, व्हाट आर द एग्जांपल्स, समझ आ जाएगा, बिल्कुल भी डिफिकल्ट नहीं है. सो बेसिकली एनी स्टैंडर्ड बुक और मटेरियल फ्रॉम द मार्केट यू विल पिक एंड यू विल प्रिपेयर योर बेस. आफ्टर दैट ओनली वैल्यू एडिशन हैज टू बी डन. दैट्स इट. And the practicing of various answers and case studies. Wo case studies and everything the other faculty is going to discuss with you tomorrow. But as of now, all I'm trying to say is that with respect to these areas, all you need to do is any standard basic material can be prepared. And once you have prepared the material, a few amount of value addition has to be done, which I'll take in the end. What kind of value addition can be made, right? Just give me some time. See the question. This was the question which was asked last year. The current internet expansion has instilled a different set of cultural values which are often in conflict with traditional values, and you need to discuss, right? So one side of argument you can say that जो current expansion हुआ है, the value system which has been inculcated is different from the traditional values. At the same time, you can say that the same internet expansion has also helped us in reaffirming our traditional values, and then you can give the examples to justify your argument. Is that clear? Now I have given in too much detailing. This is also to help you understand the nuances of the answer writing, because see, I know for everyone it is not easy to revisit the lectures. Sometimes a lot of conversation is being lost, sometimes the attention span is less. So I have written everything so that whenever you are referring to these slides, you will get an idea in what context we are talking about these questions. So you can start with any one basic definition of values, that it's a long lasting belief with respect to desirability and undesirability. It is by means of socialization that the values are inculcated in an individual. There are different agencies of the socialization. However, this is the main premise, that because of internet expansion at a rapid pace, it has brought about changes in the different agencies, because of which the values which they have been imparting has been different or in conflict with the traditional values, right? So the basic premise, ye sabse important hai, the premise needs to be established. Then very briefly you can talk about that what are those cultural values which have been experienced in the traditional setup. So whether it is cooperation, it is collectivism, it is family obligation, delayed gratification, non-violence, all of that can be added. Then you will be talking about that how the internet expansion ki wajah se we have been exposed to the new value system, let us say consumerism, let us say materialism, right? And how it is in stark contrast to the traditional values of minimalism, or for that matter non-ostentation, right? On the similar, because of internet expansion, our value system has become corrupt, right? We are moving towards objectification, commodification. We are being increasing incidences of online abuse, sexual assault, and it goes against our traditional value system of morality, restraint, decency. Is that clear? Similarly, because of internet expansion, there is exposure to the value system of individualism, right? There is lack of respect for the elders, because of which there is breakdown of joint family which is happening. People are more governed with the ideology to pursue their own personal vested interest rather than the collective interest of the family. So again, it is in conflict with the traditional values. Similarly, the same internet ki wajah se there is gaining prominence of the matrimonial sites. So the value system has underwent a change. See, it's not about the traditional was good or the current is bad, or the current is good or traditional is bad. Only one thing you have to establish is conflict. कि the current values which are developing is in conflict with the traditional values because of internet expansion. It's not about good or bad. It is just about how they are different from each other. So don't get into that debate of good or bad. Then because of this matrimonial sites or online dating or live-in relationship, the value of freedom, individual choices, compatibility rather than family obligation is gaining prominence. Then the contrary view can be provided, that how it is the same internet which has also led to the reinforcement of the traditional values. For example, the knowledge, the information about our religious beliefs, practices, customs, festivals, it has also been ensured because of the same internet. It is the same internet because of which we have been able to maintain ties with our extended kins, because of which that collective feeling, the family obligation, collective orientation has refurbished. Is that very clear? Similarly, there is community feeling which is emerging because of this internet, because of various content which is being provided, because of the various information we are getting socialized, we are getting mobilized on the basis of our common caste, religion, identity, because of which again that community feeling is coming forward. Is that very clear? Okay. Similarly, we can talk about the various movements which have gained prominence because of internet, right? Environmental movements or the traditional medicinal system. Is this very clear for everyone? Okay. Then finally you can conclude that technology itself is neutral. So it's not about technology has created the conflict, right? It is all about to what use the technology has been put to, right? So Muhammad Yunus says that technology in itself is neutral. It depends upon how it has been used. So the same internet can be used for proliferation of new values. At the same time, the same internet can be used for strengthening of the traditional values. Now again, it depends upon you how many examples, how many points you have to write. It's a 10 marker. So 2-3 points would be more than enough. No need to get into so much of detailing. But this is how the structure should look like. That is my intent which I need to convey. Is that very clear for everyone? Okay. Next question. Education is not an injunction. It is an effective and pervasive tool for all-round development of an individual and social transformation. We need to examine the new education policy in the light of the above statement. So again, I have given in the introduction that you have to explain the statement very briefly, that what is an importance of education, how education is the most powerful tool to bring about empowerment, right? How education paves way for social capital, for social transformation, for social mobility, for rationality, for critical thinking, for tolerance, accommodative of diversity. I'm just giving you examples, right? So basically you have to establish that how education should not be having a narrow perception, that it is like a diktat which is being provided by the state so as to ensure or avail livelihood opportunities. Education should not be seen just as a means to achieve a larger goal, that is income security or livelihood opportunity. One should visualize education in a broader conception, that how it is an instrument which will help in creating a virtuous society, a thoughtful society, a rational society. They always, although it depends upon the nature of education which is being provided, but we are assuming that a good set of education is being provided to all of us. So in that context, how it will help in creating innovative workforce, creative workforce, the workforce who has the ability of critical thinking, right, who've been thoughtful, rational, observant, right? So all of that. So it will help not only in the transformation of the individual but also the society at large. Is this clear? So कुछ भी कैसी भी भाषा में, मतलब in simple terms you can just explain whatever is there, whatever is the understanding of the statement in the introduction itself. Then obviously new education policy, we were expecting questions last year, but itna nahi pata tha that they will ask so many questions. I think there were 2 questions. One was in social justice paper also, and the other one is in the ethics paper. Is this very clear? So kuch nahi, simple, you should know the provisions of new education policy, right? You should be knowing how they are talking about universalization of education, right? Providing education, qualitative affordable education to every section of society. Then how they are talking about improving the learning outcome by making the education personalized, customized using artificial intelligence. Then how they are talking about bridging the social gaps, the gender category gaps, and they have also incorporated for the first time the concerns of transgenders, which is a very welcome step. Then how they have tried to change the parameters of evaluation, that just by grading or marks grading nahi hoga, it would be a complete holistic 360-degree assessment, where individual assessment, that is self assessment, teacher assessment, you know, peer assessment, all of that would be ensured. Is this very clear? Then they have also focused upon that how the curriculum would undergo a change. Then it would be, you know, reduced to basic core minimum, and they would add more dimensions to it. For example, critical thinking, for example, experiential learning, for example, sports integrated curriculum, arts integrated curriculum. Then you would also have the freedom to choose your stream. There would not be any watertight compartmentalization. Okay, so basically there are lot many provisions of new education policy which intends to ensure a multidisciplinary and holistic education. Is that very clear? Is it making sense for everyone out there? We've already talked about these points, right? Then you have to conclude that although it aims to provide us relevant education, quality education, comprehensive education, however, the successful implementation, if we are able to ensure, we will be able to transform our resources into capital. But then not only having a policy on paper would work, you need to adequately judicially implement those policies. Is that very clear? You have to ensure uniform, transparent implementation. You have to ensure equitable distribution of resources so as to ensure successful implementation of the policy. Is this making sense for everyone? Is it clear for everyone out there? Okay? Can we proceed? Next question. Okay. ऐसे क्वेश्चंस आते हैं, उसका रीज़न है सोशलाइजेशन वाला जो टॉपिक है, ह्यूमन वैल्यूज, रोल ऑफ सोशलाइजेशन, उसमें रोल ऑफ लीडर्स भी दे रखा है, ठीक है ना. वी हैवंट डिस्कस दैट बिकॉज दैट द फैकल्टी हु डील्स विद मॉरल थिंकर्स इज गोइंग टू डिस्कस विथ यू. बट एनी हाउ, this was one question, so let's very quickly talk about it. Last year the question was asked with respect to contribution of Savitribai Phule in this regard, right? It was on quite expected lines. The topic was, what are the main factors responsible for gender inequality in India? See, there is no watertight compartmentalization, क्योंकि ethics में आपने अभी तक देखा होगा gender inequality we have not studied far, but you have studied society, right? GS paper 1 you've already studied society. You know there is a problem of gender inequality. The question has been asked in ethics, or ऐसा, this has not happened for the first time. It has happened in the past also. For example, there was a question that despite legal provisions, the violence against women is on the rise. What are the factors responsible? So UPSC in past in ethics paper have been asking these questions, right? So you should know the nuances of society and you should be prepared for such questions. So very quickly, what are the, and it is not a difficult question at all, or so we can start with exemplifying that what is the current status of gender inequality. I prepared this answer. That time the global gender gap ranking was this. Currently it is 140 out of 156 country. So you have to keep updating your content, right? So global gender gap report says that India's ranking is 140 out of 156, and gender inequality has been experienced with respect to all the 4 domains, whether it is health, survival, economic participation, political empowerment, education, every which field you name it and we have it, right? Initially it was believed that to bridge this gap approximately 99.5 years would be required, but now they are saying approximately 135 years would be required to bridge the gender inequality which is existing in India. Is that clear? ठीक है ना? Then you can talk about the factors which are responsible for gender inequality in India. This is how we can categorize the answer. What are the social factors responsible? What are the economic factors responsible? देखो घूम फिर के देखा जाए तो it is patriarchy, right? But you should not write patriarchy. That is why I have written institutionalization of patriarchy. I have not just written patriarchy, because the moment you write patriarchy, the answer comes to an end. Why there is wage gap which is existing? Why there is glass ceiling which is existing? Why there is ridiculing of women which is existing? Because of patriarchy. ठीक है ना? तो द मोमेंट यू राइट पेट्रियार्की आंसर कम्स टू एन एंड. सो फिर हम लिखेंगे क्या 10 नंबर में? ये क्यों हो रहा है? अब ठीक है? ओके. It happens when you are newly trying to accommodate yourself with the technical changes. So is this very clear, right? So we can talk about the social factors which are responsible for gender inequality. For example, institutionalization of patriarchy. As in, patriarchy no longer is just an ideology, and in every institution the underlying essence is patriarchy, whether it is family, whether it is religion, whether it is education, media, whichever. ठीक है, parliament, right? So institutionalization of patriarchy, then practice of dowry, gender based violence, lack of access to basic resources for survival, lack of autonomy with respect to decision making. Then there is economic reasons, feminization of poverty, lack of financial inclusion, pink collared jobs, glass ceiling, wage gap. Now I am assuming that you know the meanings, right? Glass ceiling, transparent ceiling beyond which women is not promoted. Pink collar jobs, as in there are certain kind of jobs which are reserved for women because it is believed that women possess the soft skills, like primary school teachers, nurses, receptionists, right? Then cultural factors. Obviously, there is a preference for male child. We all know the reason. Gender stereotyping exists. Then perpetuation of patriarchy due to various religious customs and practices. Now again, you don't have to write all the points, but you have to write something, right? Then political factors. So basically, lack of political participation of women. They are more treated like a passive recipient rather than active participant, and also they do not have enough political representation. So that again is a challenge, right? Then what has been the contribution of Savitribai Phule? That was a direct question. Either you know the answer or you don't know the answer. ठीक है ना? So Savitribai Phule has recognized education as one of the most important factor for women empowerment. Along with Jyotirao Phule, she started Satyashodhak Samaj, and they wanted to initiate the practice of Satyashodhak marriage, that is without dowry. So the first indigenously run school for girls in Pune was also started by them. They have advocated for the liberty, equality, humanity. Okay? And she was a very strong-willed and a dedicated woman in the face of adversity, emotionally intelligent person, right? Endurance in adversity. And she believed, she was a visionary who believed that gender justice can be ensured through a collective, cooperative effort of civil society and state. Is this very clear? It was a 10-marker question, not a difficult question, but there were some students who faced a difficulty in answering the second part, because see, if you've done your history well, you would be knowing what was the contribution made by Savitribai Phule. But in case one was not aware of it, so बस वो एक 5 नंबर का challenge था, बाकी दूसरा 5 नंबर तो easily answerable था. ठीक है? Is it clear for everyone? Can we proceed further? Now, there is another. See, if you remember, I told you when I was asking you to prepare these concepts, value, attitude, moral, ethics, then I told you when values are understood in the prism of right and wrong, then at individual level it is morality, it's morals, right? So you study what is morality, you study it there, right? Then there are different determinants of morality. What determine your moral values? Can be your family values which have been provided to you. It can also be through the religious scriptures which defines your morality. It can be due to the customs, practices. It can be due to some philosophies which determines your individual morality. Many a times it is also constitution, right? So then the question, so one of the determinant of morality is also constitution. So now the question has been asked, what is meant by the term constitutional morality and how does one uphold constitutional morality. So it starts with the definition of morality, that what exactly, so morality is nothing but the standards which individual has set for himself. It basically guides an individual in the capacity of rightness and the wrongness of an act. Clear hai? So these are the principles or the standards which individual has set for himself or herself, and it will guide us in order to judge the rightness and the wrongness of the act. There are different determinants of morality, one of them being constitution. So what exactly is constitutional morality? Basically you can start your answer directly from what do you mean by constitutional morality, since it's a 10-marker question. Why did I mention the definition of morality and the determinant? Just to give you the sense of connect, कि दिमाग में premise क्या चलना चाहिए, just for your understanding. You can directly start with what do you understand by constitutional morality. So it is nothing but adherence to the core principles of constitutional democracy. That is what it means when we say constitutional morality. Now, why constitution? So it is basically the adherence to the core principles of constitutional democracy, or the ethical framework which is set by the constitution of respective states. Right, so in every different state they have their different constitutions, so obviously the parameters of constitutional morality would be different. Now it is believed that why it is so important, this is again for your understanding. So why it is important that we talk about constitutional morality, because India is a multi-diverse country, right? We are multicultural, we are diverse, right? So each individual in our society is governed by different set of moral and social values. Right, and for us we believe that social morality, जो ये social norms हैं जो govern कर रहे हैं हमारे standards of rightness and wrongness so of an act, so basically we believe that the conduct of society many a times is governed by the popular perceptions which are existing in the society, and many a times these popular perceptions, it leads to discrimination, development of prejudices, conflict on the basis of primordial identities. So then it was realized that you need to have certain set of common laws which would be governing the actions of the individual, and that was the need for constitutional morality. Is that clear? So often it is believed that social morality में the actions of the people are governed by popular perceptions which might lead to discrimination and prejudice. So in order to end to this situation, Indian Constitution provided a common set of values. Every one of us is governed by the same set of values which are mentioned in the Constitution. Is that very clear? Is it making sense? Now this point you could have written as a matter of concluding remark. I've written here just to make you understand that sometimes it will happen that your constitutional morality will come in conflict with, let us say, customary morality or the social morality, but through subsequent judgments of Supreme Court, one thing has been established, that ultimately it is the constitutional morality which will prevail. So this could have been used as a concluding remark. Is this very clear? Is it making sense? Now, you can add a diagram to it. Elements of constitutional morality, what exactly constitutional morality stands for. So preamble के the values or the essence of preamble, social justice, right to equality, liberty, freedom of choice, expression. This is nothing but elements of constitutional morality. Just for the understanding, and you can write also in brief. और आपको diagram बनाने की भी जरूरत नहीं है, आप comma डाल के भी 2-4 elements लिख सकते हो. Then how one needs to uphold constitutional morality. Actually जब मैं आंसर बना रही थी उसके बाद मेरे को स्ट्राइक किया कि there can be a way of writing the answer. So I thought I'll tell in the class that if I have to uphold constitutional morality, it can be done at 3 levels, let us say, at individual level, at the level of the government, or at the level of the court. Let's do it this way. So now you can do, I have given you all the points. Now you can structure that how one can uphold constitutional morality, right? So with respect to an individual, what needs to be done? With respect to the government, what needs to be done? And with respect to the court, what needs to be done? For example, if I have to talk about at the level of government, what needs to be done? So you need to understand, ऐसे vacuum में constitutional morality नहीं आ जाएगी, आपको develop करनी पड़ेगी, सिखाना पड़ेगा. So your educational curriculum, the content of the education system needs to be in tune with the or with the nuances of constitution. The basic constitutional values should be provided to the students at the school level. So obviously the educational content needs to be revamped. So educating the children as well as the adults with respect to the constitutional values, right? Then second thing is vicarious reinforcements. Vicarious reinforcement means that when somebody is rewarded for an act, then the chances of replicating that behavior is very common. There is very high probability that you will replicate the behavior for which some other individual has been rewarded, right? So if there are good examples of people who, when upholding constitutional morality, have been rewarded for that by the government, so the chances for common man like us to replicate that behavior is very high. So this is vicarious reinforcements. But अगर आप glorification of wrong deeds करोगे तो फिर कैसे होगा, right? So the government has to be very proactive in ensuring right kind of vicarious reinforcements. Is that very clear? ठीक है. Then third point, while formation of any policies or the implementation, the government should ensure that the basic values of constitution are upheld. Is this clear? Is it making sense? ठीक है. Now third point जो है ये individual level के लिए हो सकता है. At an individual level, you should set constitution as the standard while resolving any ethical dilemma. If you, obviously ऐसा तो है नहीं that we would never come across any ethical dilemmas. So whenever you are confronted with certain ethical dilemmas, always try to keep constitution as the benchmark for resolving the dilemma. So at personal level, we will be able to uphold constitutional morality. Is this very clear? ठीक है. Then with respect to courts also, the court while interpreting the constitution, it is the constitutional morality should guide their decision rather than the popular perception. कभी कभी क्या होता है, कोर्ट के decisions भी they are governed by, with all due respect, many a times it happens that the decision of the court, because देखो ना यार, no matter judiciary is a larger institution, but जो judge है that is an individual person, no? So whenever an individual is involved, तो value biasness तो आएगी ही आएगी ना, ठीक है. तो whenever you are interpreting the constitution or you are giving any judgment, it should be the constitutional morality which should govern your decisions rather than the popular perception. Similarly, the constitutional morality scope should not be narrow. मतलब you should not restrict yourself only to the literal interpretation of constitution. For example, जैसे सबरीमाला केस में हुआ था, that one of the judge said that you cannot apply Article 17 to this case. Why it cannot be applied? Because it was said that untouchability, when was incorporated in the constitution, it was with respect to the caste and not with respect to the gender. So to which the other judges replied that constitution is like a living tree, right? So you have to keep evolving the notions or the provisions of the constitution depending upon how the society is evolving. Obviously no society is static, it is dynamic, it is undergoing change, ठीक है ना. तो वही perception है कि जब आप constitutional morality के scope को study कर रहे हो, it should not be limited to the literal provisions. The ultimate aim of constitution should be ensured. That is, you create a socio-juridical scenario where an opportunity is provided to every citizen so that they can fully develop themselves. Is this very clear? I'm just giving you an idea that how it can be divided at individual level, government level or the judiciary level. Then, commitment. Every individual, we need to be committed to the vision of the constitution. That is, in our actions, we should always keep in the back of our mind liberty, equality, fraternity, right? Then it should be the responsibility of the state as well as the judiciary to inculcate civic values of brotherhood, tolerance. At the same time, you need to understand, this I've been saying like time and again, that whenever it is a matter of your core value system, right, if the changes are imposed from outside, there can be a strong probability that you will retaliate. You would not be very comfortable with the changes. But if the change comes from within, if you realize the importance of bringing about a certain change and how that change needs to be ensured, definitely there will be internalization and the result would be far positive as compared to the previous strategy. So you should provide an open platform where you can discuss and there the changes can be incorporated. Is that clear? So for deliberation, discussion, debates, open platform should be provided for exchange of ideas and culture. And once the changes has been identified, then further those changes can be supported either by means of legal sanctions or the incentives by the state. Is this very clear for everyone? Is it making sense? ठीक है? Ultimately, constitutional morality is not a natural sentiment. It has to be cultivated. You must realize that our people are yet to learn it. Democracy in India is only a top dressing on an Indian soil, which is essentially undemocratic. So, a general understanding, many a times these quotations come very handy while you are concluding your answers. ठीक है? Do not get into very long quotations, but हाँ, so आप इतना भी लिख के छोड़ सकते हो कि constitutional morality is not a natural sentiment, it has to be cultivated. Is that very clear? Is it making sense? ठीक है? So it gives that nice conclusion to your answer. तो अगर तो वैसे भी देखो quotations तो पढ़ोगे ही, right? ऐसे के लिए भी तैयार करनी ही है, ठीक है? So it can come very handy. ठीक है? Let's proceed. There is another question. What is meant by crisis of conscience? How does it manifest itself in the public domain? Is that clear? ठीक है? Now again, you could have directly started. What do you mean by crisis of conscience? I have started with the definition of conscience again to make you understand that how it is intuitive, authoritative judgment regarding the moral quality of the individual's action. So what is the conscience? It is intuitive, authoritative judgment about the moral quality of the individual's action. So if you know what is conscience, you would understand what is crisis of conscience. I have given you 3 manifestations. ठीक है? Crisis of conscience is a mental state where individual is experiencing the feeling of guilt, remorse, dissonance. That is one interpretation of crisis, or one of the manifestation of crisis of conscience, right? Another crisis would be that if you are in a dilemma, you have to make a choice, right? And however, you are compelled to choose an action which is against your voice of conscience, then again there would be crisis of conscience. Is this very clear? Then the third manifestation is when individual or someone is worrying because they think that they have done something which is morally incorrect, which is unfair. So when you have that worriness that you've done something wrong, you've done something unfair, so then there is crisis of conscience. Is that clear? Okay. It's a saying that conscience is a dog that cannot bite but never stops barking. So whenever you do something which is against your conscience, against your voice of conscience, there is a feeling of guilt. There is a feeling of uneasiness. There is a feeling of remorse. A dissonance, a mental discomfort is created because somewhere deep down the line, you know that what you've done is wrong. You know what you've done is unfair. So Mahatma Gandhi also says the highest court of law or justice is your court of conscience. Okay? So it is highest of all. So conscience is a dog that cannot bite but never stops barking. This is just for your understanding. For example, the state of Arjun just before the Kurukshetra war. Obviously, he was waging the war against his own people. Okay, so there was a feeling of guilt. Tabhi enters into the picture Lord Krishna, who made him realize that what he is doing is absolutely correct. Okay, then the value systems. Many a times, ये एक बहुत simple सा example है. Often it happens, in your everyday life that it is often been said that morality हो गया, ethics हो गया, ये बहुत subjective होते हैं. Value system बहुत relative होता है. ठीक है. Many a times, if you have studied your ethics and everything well, so you would be knowing na कि sometimes the rightness, wrongness of an action is determined by the end. Many a times it is determined by the means to achieve the end. So if let us say that you were more, comfortable with the end evaluation of your action, that overall your intention was to help your friend to pass the exam, but for which you have helped him cheat. right? तो कहीं ना कहीं the means, you know that you've done something wrong because cheating is not justified, right? So the point here is that it might generate a situation. I'm not saying it will definitely, because maybe your morality is governed by the end, the consequence of the action, and there you believe that your intent was pure, you wanted to help your friend to clear the exam, right? But it might be that on the contrary, it generates a feeling of guilt that nahi, I have resorted to cheating, so it's wrong, it's morally incorrect. ठीक है? Then manifestations of crisis of conscience. Basically they're asking you examples that in what situations this crisis of conscience can be observed in public domain. भाई बहुत जगह होता है, ठीक है? अब एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव ऑफिशियल्स हो, ठीक है? नाउ यू हैव टू adhere to the dictats of your superior, you have to adhere to the orders of the political leadership. Maybe your political leader has given you an order which you know is not in the interest of the larger public, but then you have to follow the order. So in that situation, crisis of conscience gets generated. There are many a time there is a tussle whether a short term vision should be sought or a large or a longer interest should be served, whether it is the minority's interest which needs to be served or it should be the majority interest which needs to be served. Is that very clear? Whether I should act according to written rules, regulation, or what my moral fabric is telling me. Are you getting the point? Whether one should be honest or one should be corrupt, right? So there are many a times in public domain you would be facing the situation of crisis of conscience. These are few of the examples. For example, for public servant, when moral values goes against the orders of your superior. Let us say the order of lathi charge, tear gas, pellet guns on the protesting public has been issued. Obviously, it goes against your moral fabric. So a crisis of conscience would be created. Similarly, there can be a dilemma that whether a long-term interest should be pursued or a short-term interest, whether you should pursue the interest of the minority section of society or you should pursue the interest of the majority section. So let us say officer in charge for clearing the forest for construction of metro may face the crisis of conscience if they believe that preservation of forest is more important for the people. Is this very clear? Okay. Then crisis of conscience is also visible with respect to your career choices. Maybe you are very much vocal or very much in favor of social welfare or altruistic activities, but you would not choose social welfare as the career option because you know that it would not be economically profitable. Right. So for example, the doctor, let us say, is recruited by a corporate hospital to serve in a metro city, may face crisis of conscience when he witnesses widespread disease in rural areas. Again, is this making sense? Are these examples? Now, the thing, this is what I'm trying to say, that you have to look for these examples. This has to be prepared beforehand. Exam में तुरंत याद नहीं आता है, इसीलिए बस इतना करना है कि whatever, sorry for the Hindi, all you need to do is whatever standard book or material you are referring, after that please make sure you are doing some value additions. Okay? Then let us say a crisis of conscience is also observed. For example, you believe that in the larger social interest, if you have witnessed any criminal activity, then obviously you should stand against that, right? You should raise your voice, but then there might be an inertia because then your personal life is at stake. So most of the time people don't want to be a witness in the criminal cases. Is this clear? Then we have examples where actually some leaders, some personalities have listened to their voice of conscience. For example, suspension of non-cooperation movement post Chauri Chaura incident by Gandhiji. There were many people who asked Gandhiji not to suspend it, but the decision made by Gandhiji was on the basis of voice of conscience. Similarly, there is an example of IAS officer who has resigned over the issue of denial of freedom of expression to the people of Jammu and Kashmir. I have not named it, the concerned IAS officer, you can Google it, right? So at the end of it, we need to realize that it takes lot of courage, it takes lot of integrity, it takes lot of wisdom to listen to your voice of conscience. All of us have our voice of conscience, but then all of us do not have the courage. We do not have the integrity to listen to our voice of conscience, because we need these values so as to be prepared mentally to bear the consequences which are associated with voice of conscience. Is that clear? So there is the highest court of justice, and that is the court of conscience according to Mahatma Gandhi. Conscience is a dog that cannot bite but never stops barking. Is this clear for everyone out there? Are these questions giving you some sense of understanding that how the topics have to be prepared? Okay? I think this is the last question which we will be discussing. I think so, yeah. In looking for people, I think iske baad ek aur question hai, sorry guys. In looking for people to hire, you look for three qualities: integrity, intelligence and energy. And if they do not have the first, the other two will kill you. What do you understand by the statement? You have to explain. Basically, Warren Buffett gave the statement with respect to what principles to be followed while hiring at the workplace. He said one should look for three qualities, that is integrity, energy and intelligence, but the primacy has been given to the value of integrity. He says that if you have to ensure good working environment, good work culture in general, you have to ensure high productivity, efficiency in the organization, innovation, creativeness, participative approach. So these three things have to be ensured. But in case integrity is missing, then other two will become all the more harmful. And in general, you can actually draw a comparison between Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam and Dr. AQ Khan. Both were the nuclear scientists, both had the energy and intelligence. One was a man of integrity, other wasn't, and rest is history. If you don't know who's AQ Khan, go Google it, right? So what I'm saying, you can also start with that paradox where you are drawing parallel between that how one person with intelligence, energy and integrity was a boon to the nation, whereas on the contrary, the person did have the energy and the intelligence, but since he was lacking integrity, that became a bane for the nation. Okay? Now, then you can start with the definition of integrity. This is nothing but when the path of righteousness is followed across time and space. That is, reliability in ethical conduct is what is the meaning of integrity. Or you can also define it's a practice of being honest and showing consistent and uncompromising adherence to the moral and ethical principles and values. Whichever definition you want to remember, you can. Knowing or based on your own personal interest, your own learning capabilities and comfort level, please identify, but at least prepare one definition. That is what I was trying to say. Okay? Now, linking statement. If the individual lacks integrity, the person would be a threat both to the organization as well as society at the large. Then I have tried to establish this, that let us say in an organization, a person lacks integrity. So obviously it would be difficult for you to trust the person, right? If you are not able to trust the person, you would not be able to delegate the work to the person. You would not be able to share valuable information with the person. You would not be able to hold meaningful, honest discussions with the person. As a result, overall, the quality of the decision making, the speed at which the decision should have been taken will be negatively impacted. Is this making sense for everyone? Similarly, if the person is possessing intelligence and energy, do you realize the person would be aware about the loopholes? Okay, they can misuse the provisions, the rules, the laws for their own personal vested interest. At the same time, they also might have the ability to perform very sophisticated crimes, right? And it would be very difficult to tail them also, right? So in that context, for example, cyber crime, for example, tax fraud. So they can use their intelligence for the destructive purpose. At the same time, if a person is intelligent, energetic, has access to, you know, the secrets of the organization, but such person in the absence of integrity can easily succumb to the options or the offer of corruption. And many a times such people have the potential to occupy or to gain decision making position. In that situation, the overall functioning of the organization as well as its existence would come under threat. Is that very clear? So it depends. What if the leader doesn't have the integrity? Are you getting my point? And the person has reached to the position of leadership. So whatever, leaders only provide you the vision. Leaders only, you know, provide you the goals and strategy to achieve the goal. So what if the leader himself is corrupt, is lacking integrity? So overall, the nature of the organization would undergo a change. Is that very clear for everyone? Is it making sense? तभी कहा जाता है that education without values, as useful as it seems, rather make a man a more clever devil. So no matter how intelligent, how energetic you are, if you are not a person of integrity, you are more of a threat to us, right? Because education without values, as useful as it seems, rather make a man more clever devil. Is this clear for everyone? Is it making sense for everyone? ठीक है? Can we proceed? Then there was this question, it's a direct question. If you've studied your ancient medieval history, Buddhism, Jainism, then you know how to answer this question. Now, it is a part of your syllabus because one of the agency of socialization is religious teachings. So, definitely teachings of Gautam Buddha. Okay, you have to talk about the relevance, right? So then you can start with a basic premise that Gautam Buddha has given us more than 84,000 teachings, and the teachings have been so extensive that different people in different situations can definitely find something which will fulfill their needs. Is that very clear? In the current context, across the world, the societies are facing certain grave issues, for example, religious conflicts, mob lynching, corruption, environmental distress, moral degradation. Hence, the values which have been provided by the teachings of Gautam Buddha, such as compassion, peace, solidarity, it assumes great relevance. ठीक है, तो आपको relevance establish करनी थी, तो linking statement बनाना था. This is how the linking statement can be made. Then you can talk about what have been the teachings of Gautam Buddha and how it has transcended the time and are still relevant. For example, how he believed ignorance is the root cause of all sufferings. So learning should be based on one's own observation and perception. Knowledge is not possible without experience. Then he has talked about how greed, desire, hatred has been the root cause of all the sufferings. Then you can talk about the eightfold path, whether it is wisdom, ethical conduct, meditation, etc. Specifically in current context, meditation, there is so much of anxiety, stress, mental health issues. So in that context, it becomes relevant, right? Then wisdom, ethical conduct, आजकल corruption करना, misappropriation of funds करना, hate speeches देना, ठीक है, shortcuts to success. So in the backdrop of all those things, ethical conduct attains primacy. Is that very clear? Is it making sense? Then you can talk about how there has to be detachment, selflessness, non-attached attitude. If you have that practice of non-attachment, how it will lead to conflict resolution. Then he has also talked about concept of karma. Okay? Then compassion, right? There is nothing to explain. You all know this. Okay? So not everything is supposed to be written. It's a 10-marker question. So whichever way you are comfortable, that can be added, right? So you can talk about compassion. That is when someone is in trouble, you need to help the person. Then you can give the concept of loving kindness. It's a practice which helps in bringing about positive changes. For example, compassion, joy, equanimity, friendliness. Then what exactly equanimity stands for? When you are able to create a true inclusive society where you believe in unity of all the individuals. Then we can talk about bhavna, where he has talked about that having a pure mind, trained mind, well developed mind is the man's greatest treasure. In fact, he said that anger के लिए जब बुद्धिज्म में लिखा हुआ है टीचिंग्स में, तो they have spoken about that no one can make you angry. You make yourself angry. It says that anger, like all mental state, is also the manifestation of mind, right? So having a pure mind, a trained mind, a developed mind is the biggest treasure of an individual. Is this very clear? ठीक है. So overall, then you can conclude that how the teachings helps us inculcate the values of compassion, calmness, joy, helps in maintaining balance between man and nature. Is that very clear? So in order to make the society a peaceful place, a better place, it is relevant in the world today. Is this very clear? So Buddhist teachings still hold relevance. You can establish the fact, and you can, whatever teachings you have studied within Buddhism, you can add more to it also, or you can reduce the content. You just have to write a 10 marker. Okay, so there has to be an introduction, there has to be a linking statement, then you can talk about the relevance, okay, and then finally you can conclude. Is this making sense for everyone out there? Okay. Now there is just one topic which is left, and that is attitude. Now the thing is, in past 3 years we did not have a single question from attitude, but that doesn't mean in past we didn't have. I'll give you just some examples. There was a question, how social influence and persuasion can be used for successful implementation of Swachh Bharat mission. That was the question. There was another question which was asked, that is, what do you mean by bureaucratic attitude? What do you mean by democratic attitude? What are the merits and demerits, and how both of them can be applied? Okay, so that was the question. Then I remember there was a question that there exists different type of attitude with respect to caste system. What are the factors responsible for formation of that attitude? Right. So there have been questions which have been asked in past from the attitude topic. So, but in last 3 years, since we are doing analysis of 2018, 19 and 20, so in last 3 years there have not been a question, but before that there were questions. So this is how the attitude as a topic you can prepare. What is the concept of attitude? What are the features of attitude? Different types of attitude, right? The moral attitude, political attitude, democratic attitude, bureaucratic attitude, patriarchal attitude, caste-based attitude, whatsoever it is, casteist attitude. Okay. Then what are the structures of attitude? What are the functions? Why do we hold certain attitude? Because it performs certain functions for us. So need function ho gaya, knowledge function ho gaya, value expressive, ego defensive, all of that. Then attitude, behavior, consistency. I told you, no? Value is a general determinant of behavior. Attitude is a specific determinant of behavior. So often it is believed that attitude, behavior, consistency is there. But then there are certain certain incidences where attitude, behavior, consistency is not there. So you have to study all of that. Then social influence and persuasion. Social influence ko bhi thoda detail mein, what is social influence, what are the theoretical perspectives, what are the mechanisms through which social influence is manifested, right? Conformity, compliance, obedience, then destructive obedience, Stanley Milgram ka experiment. Then you should know what is persuasion, what is Aristotle's perspective on persuasion. He's known as father of persuasion. Then you should know what are the steps in the process of persuasion, right? What are the characteristics of the elements of persuasion, like what are the source characteristic, message or receiver. You know, कहने का तात्पर्य है that you should know, थोड़ा सा deconstruction is required, and you would get any standard book or material, you would get enough content there. ठीक है, तो that is not a challenge. Challenge often, if there is any, is only how to do the value addition. तो मैं एक बार दिखा देती हूँ value addition कैसे करना है. ठीक है, let me just give me 1 minute. This is what is everything visible? See, this is what I mean when I was saying that value addition has to be done. For example, the value added here, let us say, was wisdom. ठीक है? So wisdom, what is the definition of wisdom? If you can see, ठीक है? The quality of having experience, knowledge and good judgment. Then I have given another definition also. It is the ability to know what is true or right, common sense, or the collection of one's knowledge. Then what are the features of wisdom? Then you can pick up examples where wisdom has been depicted. For example, Yudhishthir's example when he saved the life of his 4 brothers from Yaksha using his wisdom. Or the Jharkhand IFS officer Siddharth Tripathi, he had helped 2 villages turn self-reliant. Now the villages are earning 5 times more income. Or the example of the IPS officer or the IRS officer B. Raghu Kiran, how they have made use of their wisdom, as in they all have knowledge, but how the knowledge has been put, how their experience, how the knowledge has been put to the right use, right, how it has been able to ensure good governance, right. So you can start with, whenever you are preparing your own notes, so if we are talking about, let us say, wisdom, so what is the definition of wisdom, what are the features of wisdom, then you can pick up different examples to substantiate your understanding of wisdom. The example can be from any administrative field, it can be from mythology, it can be your own personal examples. So this is how it's not visible. Okay, okay. कैसे दिखाऊं सो दैट इट बिकम्स, 1 सेकेंड रुको यार, अब विजिबल होगा शायद, 1 सेकेंड रुकना. जस्ट गिव मी 1 मिनट. ठीक है. नाउ लेट अस से we have jealousy or we have compassion. See, I'll provide you this content. Even if it is not visible right now, I'll provide it. So description box mein we'll provide you the link. All I'm trying to say is that let us say if there is jealousy, emotion है. मैंने आपसे कहा था ना, 2 ही सेट में आप तैयारी कर सकते हो. One is with respect to emotion and other is with respect to the values. Guys, I am talking about the areas which I am dealing with. So the other areas, when the respective faculty will come, they will tell you how to prepare. So I am dealing with my areas. That is why I have chosen 2 examples. One is with respect to emotion. So happiness का example है, jealousy का example है. Then with respect to values, we have compassion, we have wisdom. ठीक है. So these are the examples which I have taken just to make you understand that definition, characteristic, feature. ठीक है. Then examples. For example, I had to show you integrity. Let me see integrity का कहाँ लिखा है मैंने. This is integrity, right? So definition of integrity, features of integrity. Then we have taken examples. For example, Lal Bahadur Shastri ji's example. Then T.N. Seshan example with respect to election commission. ठीक है. Then we have example where a person has paid the price of being a man of integrity. Then we have also taken the example from the administrative services. Then there are certain quotations with respect to integrity. This is what I mean when I say value addition can be done. अब इतना डिटेल में भी करने का जरूरत नहीं है. Just do it according to your comfort level. That is what all I am trying to say. Is this very clear for everyone? ठीक है. So I hope you've understood the weightage of those 4 topics which I am taking. You've understood the nature of the questions which have been asked in the past, what kind of questions which have been asked in the past, how to attempt the answers to the question in past 3 years, whatever questions have come, we have discussed all the answers. Then how you have to prepare for these areas. You will be going for a standard book and doing some value addition here. ठीक है. How the value addition has been done, it has been provided to you, right? So I hope things are falling in place now. ठीक है. You are getting a clarity. See, I have tried my level best to incorporate every aspect of preparation as far as these 4 topics of ethics paper is concerned. I hope whatever we have discussed so far is able to address some of your doubts, which in case you had some. ठीक है. And I hope you will take this session seriously and you will start practicing, because at the end of it we can only guide you. Ultimately what matters is how much efforts you are putting it. And let me just make one last observation. We've been observing, I think right from 2016 onwards, I would not say 13, 16, because उससे पहले मैंने उतना analysis or observation नहीं किया था as far as selected candidates are concerned. So one thing I have observed is that in case you pick up the toppers, there is more or less some similarity and commonality in their approach to examination. Right, if you see examples of Anudeep Durshetty, or you see example of Shubham, this year's rank 1, or you see the example of students who have secured really good marks in essay for that matter, or ethics in general. So there is a commonality in their approach, right? And trust me, we or other mentors also, ऐसा नहीं है कि कुछ rocket science है, we have been telling the students that this is the approach you should follow, but then there are only few students who listen to us seriously. Us as in everyone, not just vision, everyone out there. By if we are being mentoring the students, एक understanding observation तो सबके पास होती है ना. So all the mentors, all of us who are trying to understand that what is the UPSC demand, how one should go about it, we have observed that we've been telling this time and again, but it is only few of the students who actually imbibe this. ठीक है, so what I'm trying to say is, no matter how much we speak on this platform, if you do not internalize this analysis, or you do not follow the path, I'm not saying exactly replicate the path of preparation, absolutely not, there cannot be one way, but there has to be some similarity or commonality in the approach, right? Ki this is how you should approach a certain paper. Try doing that. ठीक है, and I hope you will be able to do justice to your preparation. ठीक है, so on this note we will conclude the lecture. I hope you found the lecture useful. Take care people. Good night.